The floor shifted under my boots before I even finished my first step inside, and every warning instinct I had screamed at me to turn back. I did not turn back. My name is Ryan Blake, and I fly a salvage skiff on the edge of concordant space, chasing wrecks that pay just enough to keep my ship fueled and my debts from swallowing me whole. I had seen dead stations, drifting freighters, and burned-out colony shells. None of them had ever done what this one did the moment I crossed the threshold. The lights came on, not flickering awake like old, tired systems fighting rust and dust. They came on all at once, warm and steady, exactly where I needed them, as if the ship had been waiting for me and only me. I froze in the corridor, my hand resting on the sidearm at my hip, though I already knew a weapon would do nothing here. My scanners had picked up this hull 2 hours earlier, tumbling slowly at the edge of a dead star system called Ledgefall, 2 kilometers of black metal, coated in frost so old it looked like stone. My ship's database had chewed on the shape for 11 long seconds before giving me an answer I did not want to believe. Human, soul-derived, a design lost for 11,000 years. Since the event every school in the Concordance calls the Second Silence, the day humanity vanished from the galaxy as if it had never existed at all. I told myself I was only here for salvage. 400 credits to my name, a loan crushing me slowly, and a wreck this size could change everything. That was the lie I used to walk forward instead of back. The corridor stretched ahead of me, wide enough to fit 3 of my own ships side by side, built on a scale that made me feel small in a way no derelict ever had. My boots echoed against clean metal, not preserved clean, not museum clean, but used clean, the kind of clean that comes from something being kept, cared for, sharpened again and again across time I could not comprehend. Then the door behind me sealed shut. I spun around and slammed my palm against the panel, but it gave no response, no hiss of hydraulics, no light. It had simply decided I was not leaving yet. My pulse climbed into my throat, and for the first time since I had docked, I understood that I was not exploring a wreck. I was being led somewhere, and the ship intended for me to arrive. I forced my legs to keep moving because standing still in that silence felt more dangerous than walking. The corridor bent, dropped, and opened into a chamber so vast my flashlight could not find its far wall. Consoles lined the edges, dark but not dead, humming faintly like sleeping animals. And at the center of it all sat a single chair facing away from me, toward a viewport that showed nothing but stars. A man sat in that chair. I stopped breathing. 11,000 years, and something in that seat had not decayed to dust, had not become a skeleton wrapped in cloth. My scanner trembled in my hand as it fed me numbers that made no sense. A living heartbeat, slow but steady. The chair turned. He looked at me the way you might look at someone who had knocked on your door during a quiet evening, mild surprise, nothing more. His eyes were sharp, alert, and entirely too calm for a man who should not exist. "You made good time," he said, in a language my translator struggled to catch, ancient and rough at the edges, though I understood it well enough. Most people take longer to get past the first door. I raised my weapon without deciding to. He did not flinch. "That will not help you," he said, glancing at it the way you glance at a child holding a stick. "Not against me, and definitely not against what is coming. Put it away before you waste the only minutes we have." "What is coming?" My voice cracked on the question, and I hated myself for it. He stood from the chair slowly, joints moving like a man twice his apparent age, though nothing about his face suggested age at all. "My name is Adrian," he said. "I have been keeping watch here since before your ancestors learned to build ships that could leave a single sun behind, and you have just triggered something I hoped would sleep a while longer." The lights along the chamber flickered, just once, and a low tone pulsed through the floor, felt more than heard. "That," Adrian said, "means we no longer have the luxury of a slow conversation." He moved past me toward a console, fingers gliding across controls that lit up under his touch as if they recognized him instantly. I followed because I did not know what else to do, because turning back meant a sealed door and an empty corridor and a silence I no longer trusted. "This ship," Adrian said without looking at me, "was not left here by accident. It was left here as a lock. Do you understand what a lock is for, Ryan?" I had not told him my name. He caught my expression and offered a thin, tired smile. "Your ship announced itself the moment it entered the system. I have had a long time to learn how to listen." He turned back to the console. "A lock exists because something on the other side of the door wants out, and someone decided the door needed to stay shut. I am the one who stayed to make sure it did." The pulse beneath the floor grew stronger, a rhythm now instead of a single tone, like something breathing. 11,000 years ago, Adrian continued, my people found something out past the edge of known space, We did not understand what we had found until it was already inside our systems, inside our minds, spreading the way frost spreads across a window, quiet, patient, and total. We fought it the only way we could. We built a door and we shut it, and I volunteered to stand on this side and make sure it never opened again. And it's still out there, I said. Whatever it is still out there, he confirmed. And your ship's engines, entering this system, disturbed the field that has kept it asleep. I am sorry to say that you have woken something neither of us wants awake. The chamber shuddered, a deep grinding vibration that traveled up through my boots and into my chest. Somewhere far off, metal groaned like a living thing under pressure. We need to move, Adrian said, already walking toward a side corridor I had not noticed before, hidden in shadow until the lights shifted to reveal it. There is a chance, a narrow one, to reset the lock before it fails completely. But I will need your hands for part of it, and I will need you to trust me faster than trust usually comes. I followed him because the alternative was standing in a chamber that was starting to shake apart around me, and because something in his voice, steady despite 11,000 years of solitary waiting, made trust feel less impossible than it should have. The corridor narrowed as we ran, lights strobing overhead in time with the pulse from below, faster now, more urgent. Adrian moved with the calm efficiency of someone who had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times in his mind, even if he had never lived it before. The lock has 3 parts, he explained as we ran, voice even despite the pace. A field generator at the ship's core, a relay array along the outer hull, and a key, which I carry. The generator has weakened over the centuries. Your arrival gave it the final push it needed to fail. We can restore it, but only if the relay array is realigned first, and that will require someone in the maintenance shaft while I handle the generator. You want me in a maintenance shaft? I repeated, on a ship this old, while whatever is out there wakes up. I want you alive afterward, Adrian said, which means yes. That is exactly what I am asking. We reached a junction where the corridor split 3 ways. Adrian pointed to the leftmost passage. That leads to the relay array. There will be a panel with 3 levers, colored the same as the ones marked on your scanner right now. I looked down and saw my scanner screen lit with 3 colors I had not put there myself. Adrian had somehow fed the data into my own device without touching it. Pull them in this order, he said. Blue, then red, then the pale one in the middle. Do it exactly in that order, or the array will lock itself permanently, and there will be no second attempt. How long do I have? Less time than either of us would like, Adrian said, already moving toward the right passage. Go, Ryan. I will find you on the other side, or I will not find you at all, but either way, you must go now. I ran. The maintenance shaft was tighter than the grand corridors above, built for smaller frames doing careful, patient work, not for someone sprinting with adrenaline burning through every muscle. Pipes lined the walls, some warm to the touch, some cold enough to bite through my gloves. The pulse from below had become a steady rising hum, like a giant slowly waking from a very long sleep. I found the panel exactly where Adrian said it would be. 3 levers, sitting dull and unused beneath a layer of frost that cracked as I touched them. My hands shook as I gripped the first one. Blue. It resisted, stiff with age, until it finally gave way with a groan that echoed down the shaft. Lights along the corridor dimmed in response, and for one terrifying second I thought I had broken something instead of fixing it. Then a soft green light blinked on above the lever, and I allowed myself half a breath of relief. Red. This one moved easier, but the moment it clicked into place, the hum from below spiked into something sharper, angrier, like a struck note. The whole shaft rattled around me, dust and frost raining down from the pipes overhead. I gripped the wall to steady myself, heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my ears. The pale lever remained. I reached for it and hesitated, because something about it felt different, warmer somehow, humming faintly under my palm before I even touched it. I thought of Adrian's warning, exactly in that order, or no second chance. I pulled it. The entire ship seemed to exhale. The hum dropped instantly, falling from a scream to a low, contented murmur, the sound settling into something almost peaceful. Lights along the shaft steadied into a warm gold glow, matching the ones I had seen when I first stepped aboard. I allowed myself exactly 3 seconds to catch my breath, before I remembered Adrian was somewhere else on this ship, facing whatever the generator required of him, and I had no idea if he had succeeded at all. I ran back the way I had come, boots slipping on frost-slick metal, lungs burning, until I reached the junction where we had split apart. The right passage stood open, lights flickering weakly along its length, calling me forward. I found Adrian slumped against a console deep inside a chamber lit by a single pulsing sphere of pale light, suspended in the air above a cradle of machinery that looked older than language itself. He was breathing, but barely, sweat beading on his brow despite the cold air around us. "You did it," he said, voice thin but genuinely pleased. I felt the relay align. "Good work, Ryan." "What about you?" I knelt beside him, checking for injuries I could not name because I did not understand this technology well enough to know what damage looked like here. "The generator required a cost," Adrian said. "Every reset does. It takes a little more from whoever channels it each time. I have paid that cost many times over the centuries, and I will recover, given a little rest. But I do not think I have another reset left in me after this one, Ryan. Not one strong enough to matter." The sphere above us dimmed, then steadied, and the pulse beneath the ship faded fully into silence. This time, a peaceful silence instead of the held breath quiet I had walked into an hour before. "Then let someone else carry it," I said, surprising myself with how quickly the words came. "You have done this alone long enough." Adrian looked at me for a long moment, something unreadable passing behind his eyes. "It is not a small thing I am describing," he said carefully. "Whoever holds this position stands between everyone else and something that does not sleep forever. It asks for a life spent watching, waiting, never fully free to leave." "You said yourself the ship chose me the moment I walked in," I said. "Lights came on for me, doors opened for me. Maybe it was choosing more than just directions." He studied me a while longer, then let out a breath that sounded almost like a laugh. "Perhaps it was," he admitted. "I will not pretend the offer is fair, or kind, or something I would ask of anyone with a full life waiting elsewhere. But if you are willing, Ryan, there is a way to share this weight rather than pass it whole. 2 watchers instead of 1, spelling each other across the centuries, resting when the other stands guard. It has never been tried, not in all my years here, but I believe it could work." The ship hummed softly around us, patient, waiting for an answer the way it had waited 11,000 years for someone to walk through its door. I thought about my skiff, sitting empty at the airlock, my half-finished life of debts and small salvage jobs and nights spent alone in the dark between stars. I thought about a door that needed keeping, and a man who had kept it alone for longer than my species had existed, and the quiet dignity in the way he had never once complained about the cost. "Tell me what it means," I said. "Everything it means, before I decide." Adrian nodded, respect flickering across his tired face. "It means learning this ship as if it were your own heartbeat. It means understanding the thing on the other side of the lock well enough to recognize the smallest sign of it stirring. It means accepting that some years will be spent entirely alone, watching stars that do not care whether you are there or not. But it also means never facing that solitude completely, not anymore, because there will be 2 of us now instead of 1, taking turns carrying what once could only be carried alone." I looked past him, through the chamber, to where the pale sphere pulsed gently above its cradle, steady and calm, no longer straining against a weight too heavy for one keeper alone. "I still have a loan on my skiff," I said, and Adrian actually laughed, a real laugh, surprised out of him. "I imagine the Concordance will not miss one small salvage vessel," he said, "and I imagine, given time, we can find a way to settle debts that no longer need to trouble you." I helped him to his feet, his weight lighter than I expected, as if 11,000 years had worn him down to something more patient than physical. We walked together back toward the bridge, past corridors that no longer felt cold or foreign, lights warming ahead of us the entire way, as though the ship itself approved of the choice being made inside it. At the viewport, stars stretched endless and silent, indifferent to everything that had almost happened beneath their light. Somewhere far beyond them, something ancient and patient waited for its next chance, and somewhere much closer, 2 watchers now stood ready instead of 1. "There will be difficult nights," Adrian said quietly, standing beside me at the glass. "Nights where the silence presses harder than you expect, and doubts will ask you why you ever agreed to this. I will not lie about that. You stayed 11,000 years without asking anyone to share it," I said. "I think I can manage a few difficult nights knowing I am not doing it alone." He turned back toward the chair that had held him for so long, and for the first time since I had met him, he did not sit in it like a man bound to duty. He sat in it like someone finally allowed to rest, even if only for a while, knowing another set of eyes now watched the same stars beside him. Outside the viewport, the dead star of Ledgefall burned faint and distant, and the ship that had been silent for millennia hummed quietly around us, no longer waiting alone in the dark for someone to finally answer its call. I had come looking for salvage. I found something worth staying for instead.